It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new level specific guide video. Hello everyone, my name is Professor Scalar and welcome to my first of many Rundown 5 level guides. With the new rundown, not only do we get more levels to go over and discuss, but also a batch of brand new players to the game. So for all of you who are new here, hello. As stated earlier, my name is Professor Scalar and I do a variety of GTFO content. Some of the things I do include lore videos, challenges, general playthroughs, level-specific guides like this one here, and a whole lot more. Which, that's the whole reason you're here, isn't it? You wanted some help with R5A1 and you wanted a guide on it. But before we get into the guide itself, I want to take a little time to quickly explain to the new prisoners how these guide videos work and what I'll be covering in them. For those of you who aren't new to the channel or you just don't really care in the first place, jump to the timestamp that you see on screen to skip to the guide itself. For the rest of you who are sticking around though, let's quickly go over what you can expect to see. In these level guides, I try to keep things as simple as I can while also making sure I cover all the important details to make your runs a bit easier. All my guides start off with a loadout recommendation. Most of the time I will only cover your team's tools and not the primary or secondary weapons, since you can definitely beat a lot of the levels in this game with almost any weapon combination out there. There are going to be some levels where having specific type of weapons will make things a lot easier for you and your team, and I'll make sure to make special note of those in those guides. But overall, if I don't specify any specific weapons, just take what you feel like you like using and what you're good with. Just try to have some variety on your team. If you see somebody taking a sniper rifle and somebody else taking a hell rifle, probably not a good idea for you to take another sniper or hell rifle, so try to take something like maybe a machine gun or one of the shotguns. That way your team is well suited for every single type of situation. Once a loadout recommendation is done, I go over everything in the level from start to finish. I will cover every single zone one by one in the order that you'll be playing through them, and I'll be talking about any key items, serious dangers, or just anything noteworthy that you should be aware of when it comes to that zone. I will show map overlays for alarm doors to give you visuals of where enemies will spawn and what routes they can take to get to you. That way, you're not accidentally seafoaming a door that they will never ever break down, or you don't place your sentry down a corridor that enemies will never traverse through and therefore your sentry is just sitting there doing nothing the entire time. There's also a few other things that I do cover in these level-specific guide videos, but I won't go into them right now just because I don't always talk about those things in every level video. It just depends if it's relevant or not in that stage. But in a way, just think of it as if I'm right there in your lobby with you, helping you along, giving you advice, that way you don't die as quickly. You'll still die though, and you'll still probably die quite a bit, but that's just because I'm not a miracle worker and all the prep in the world isn't enough to beat some of these levels. But now that you know what to expect from these level guides and you have a general idea of how it's going to go, let's get into this one right here and talk about everything you need to know to beat R5A1. As always, let's start off this guide with a loadout recommendation. Since this is the first level of a brand new rundown, we don't have to worry about anything too crazy or hectic, so when it comes to your weapons, take whatever you feel like using. If you're a returning player, mess around with the new weapons that were added in with this rundown to get a feeling of how they work and if you like them or don't like them. And if you're a brand new player, just experiment. I would recommend every time you have a fail run, try out a new weapon, just get a feeling of how everything works, that way you have a bigger pool of weapons that you can select and not have to worry about not knowing exactly how it operates. For the most part, have fun and just see what you like. When it comes to your tools though, this is a pretty simple level, so I'm going to recommend to you the classic loadout that I like to take whenever I do a brand new level I've never seen before, which is a bio tracker, a mine deployer, a seafoam launcher, and an auto sentry. This loadout is quite nice as it will cover almost all of your basic needs in a level. Bio tracker will give you the information and knowledge of where enemies are, how many there are, what route they might be taking to get to you if they are awake, and anything like that, which is always good. Knowledge is key in this game after all. Mine deployer, there's no better tool to just blow up a bunch of enemies all at once, especially if you have a door that you can just shut and bunch up a bunch of enemies on while they try to break it down. Seafoam, you can use it to barricade doors and give yourself a little bit extra time to do security scans and make it so that you don't have to worry about doing scans and having enemies coming in and trying to kill you. And then the auto sentry, It's a nice last line of defense. Once enemies finally do get into the room where you're at, a good auto sentry position can stagger a ton of enemies with its high rate of fire and tungsten rounds, and make it very easy to shoot down enemies and keep them at bay even if there are about 20 of them right there in front of you. You can swap out any of these tools you want with anything else if you want to experiment a bit more, have fun with something else, maybe take a burst or a sniper sentry instead of an auto sentry. It's up to you. Again, it is A1, so almost any loadout will work. This is just the one I prefer, but anything else can definitely get the job done just as well, if not maybe even a little bit better. Dropping down to the level, you'll see that your main objective is to lift the lockdown that's currently in place by using a specific terminal. This terminal will always be located inside Zone 63, and you start off in Zone 61, so not too far away. Going throughout Zone 61, you'll find resources, enemies, and a lot of black cocoons all over the ceiling. These black cocoons are something brand new to Rundown 5, and they indicate that you are in a respawn zone. Since this is something new, I'll quickly go over the basics of how it works, that way you get a general understanding of it. Whenever you're in a respawn zone, almost every single enemy, depending on the circumstances, will respawn if you kill them once your entire team leaves the zone. So in this instance, once everybody leaves Zone 61 and heads to 62, everything inside Zone 61 will come back to life, but they'll be in the exact same position that they were the first time. No additional enemies will spawn in, only the enemies that you killed. So you don't have to worry about a zone getting flooded by enemies because you keep going in and out of it without killing anything. When it comes to respawn zones, you have two different ways you can really handle it. You could either just kill everything as you go through, that way you can run around more freely, explore and grab resources and all of that, then just either stealth your way through them when you come back later or just kill them off once again. Or you can stealth your way through the first time, not kill anything, then either stealth your way when you come back through again, or then on your way back you can kill off enemies, and that way you don't have to worry about them later, assuming you don't have to revisit this zone again. Respawn zones aren't really too difficult to deal with, it's more so up to your team if you just want to sneak it or if you want to try to kill everything. If you're a newer player or you're not as good about stealthing stuff, I would recommend trying to practice your stealth kills in Zone 61, as it can give you a little bit more experience, and that way you're not really caught off guard or unsure what to do when you have to stealth through super dangerous zones in C or D tier levels. Inside Zone 61, you'll find two security doors. One of them to the west, which leads you to Zone 64. This is currently under lockdown though, so you cannot go there. And one to the east, which leads you to Zone 62. Zone 62 security door is just a full team scan, no alarm tied to it. So once your entire team is there, you finish the scan, you can open the door and head on into Zone 62. Inside of Zone 62, you'll find more enemies and resources, as well as a power cell that you're going to need to get into Zone 63, as well as a bulkhead key. This bulkhead key can be used to unlock your extreme objective, although we'll talk more about that later. Just to let it be known that if you do want to go for the extreme objective as well, make sure you pick this up while you're going through this zone. On the far eastern side of it, you'll have a giant open room. In the middle, there will be a pit that you can climb ladders down to get into. Down there will be the generator that you need to put the power cell in to unlock the security door to the south end of the room. This security door leads you to Zone 63. This security door is a Class 2 alarm, so let's look at a map overlay to give you an idea of where enemies will be coming from and what you need to do to set up for it. As you can see with this map overlay, there are two different rooms that enemies can spawn in, but every single one of them will have to go through this central door here to get into your room, so this is going to be your choke point. I would recommend shut this door, place 1, maybe 2 mines on it, C-foam the door as well, and if you do have sentries, you can have your sentries on the inside facing towards the door to shoot enemies as they do break it down. This is only a Class 2 alarm, so it's not too crazy, so you could really just get away with it by just putting 1 mine on the door and that's it. Once you finish all the scans and all the enemies are dead, you can head into Zone 63. Zone 63 itself doesn't have anything too noteworthy. It will have a scout in it, so if you are a newer player, do be careful of that, as that can cost you a lot of ammunition if you do set it off. But inside of it, you will find a terminal that you need to lift the lockdown. When you go near this terminal, it will give you the command that you need to put into it. Just simply enter this command into the terminal, hit enter, and then a full team scan will appear next to the terminal. Once the scan is finished, the lockdown will be lifted, which will cause two different things to happen. The first one is your main objective will be updated, and it will now tell you to go to the forward extraction that is inside Zone 65. The other thing that happens is the security door to Zone 64 will now be unlocked and automatically open up for you. So once you have lifted the lockdown, it's time to backtrack all the way to Zone 61, then head to the west side of it where the security door to Zone 64 is. The security door to Zone 64 automatically opens up for you once the lockdown is lifted, so when you arrive, you can just walk on in. Zone 64 is a respawn zone just like Zone 61, so do be aware of that. Inside, you will be able to find the bulkhead door that leads to your extreme objective, the bulkhead door control that you can use to unlock that door, as well as a security door that leads you to Zone 65 on the far west side of it. Before we talk about the extreme objective and all of that, let's discuss Zone 65 security door because that will be a Class 3 cluster alarm. This alarm door is pretty simple and easy to deal with though. There's only one location that the enemies can spawn in, and they have to go through 2 doors to get to you. And even though it looks like there are 3 entrances to the room you can take, as long as all 3 doors are kept shut, every single enemy will go for this door right here, making it incredibly easy to set up for it. I would just say place a mine and C-foam the 2 doors that they will take to get to you, and you should be pretty clear. Most of the enemies will be blown up by the mines once they finally break down the doors, and you could do the scans in the meantime. You may have to shoot 2 or 3 enemies that get through, but that won't be too hard for you. Once you finish the alarm door, you now have a choice to make. If your team wants to just leave right now and not go for the extreme objective, head to Zone 65, get on the extraction scan. It is a silent scan, so no enemies will spawn in while you're doing it. But if you do want to go for the extreme objective, put your bulkhead key into the door control, unlock the bulkhead door to Zone 191, and then head on over there. Going into Zone 191, you'll see that your extreme objective is to collect 6 plant samples in the level, and there's a total of 7. These plant samples will be spread throughout Zone 192, 193, and 194, all of which you have access to from 191. 191 itself is a respawn zone, so every time you leave the zone, all the enemies will come back, so do be aware of that. And there is a generator tied to all 3 of the security doors. However, there's only 1 power cell in all of Zone 191. So before you plug that power cell into a generator, get on a terminal and list how many plant samples are in each of the 3 zones, because there are a total of 7 and there is a chance that you only have to go to 2 of the 3 zones to collect them all. Sometimes you will have to go to all 3, but there are a few runs where I've only had to go to 2 of them, so it's definitely worth checking before you put a power cell into one of the generators. All 3 of these zones, 192, 193, and 194, are quite similar to each other. They will have resources, enemies, potentially multiple scouts, plant samples, and a spare power cell that you can use to get into one of the other zones. That way you don't accidentally soft lock yourself. They are also all the same type of alarm door, a Class 3 sustain alarm. So let's look at a floor plan for all of them. If you're going into Zone 192 or 193, this is what your floor plan is going to look like. Both security doors are in the same room, so their floor plan will not change. There's only one room that enemies can spawn in, and there are 2 doors that they have to go through to get to you. However, I recommend you leave this door here open. The reason for that is because that door is directly tied to the room that has the other security door in it, Zone 194. So if you do have to go in there and this door gets broken open during one of these 2 alarm doors, then if they spawn from that side, they have no doors that they're going to have to break down to get to you. So it's better to save this one for 194. But other than that, this is pretty simple. You have 1 door that you can mine and also C-foam, and if you have a sentry, you can face it towards it to shoot enemies as they break through. One other thing to note about 192 and 193 though, is because they're so close to each other, if you have to go into both zones, the one you open up first will become a new spawn point for this alarm. So if you open up 192, there's only one area that enemies can spawn in. But then when you open up 193, they can spawn in that same area as before, but they can also now spawn inside of Zone 192. In this situation though, just go in, look for whatever doors are closest to you, shut them, mine them, and C-foam them if you feel like it. That, or at least face your sentry towards the open security door, that way you'll hear it go off when enemies approach and you'll be able to react a little bit faster. For those of you who are going to Zone 194 though, this is what your floor plan looks like. Enemies can spawn either to the north or to the south of you. They have to go through at least 1 door in both directions to get to you. So again, just place a mine or C-foam the doors, and then you should be good. These sustain alarms aren't really that difficult. I believe each set of scans takes about 10 seconds or so it's only about 30 seconds in total, which you can get about 10 or even 15 seconds of that done before enemies really even get to the doors initially and start hitting them. So as long as you keep the door shut, these alarm doors are quite easy to complete. But no matter which combination of zones you have to go to, whether it's just 2 or all 3 of them, once you go through them and you collect all 6 of your plant samples, your extreme objective is completed, and then you can head back to Zone 65 and go for the extraction scan. Assuming you've already done the Cluster 3 alarm door before this, the only thing that stands in your way are the enemies that respawn throughout the respawn zones. But even then, just kill them on your way out, or just simply run right past them or stealth past them and get back to the extraction scan. Step in, get that to 100%, and then you have beaten R5A1. And there you have it. Everything you need to know to make R5A1 easier for you, whether you're just going for the main objective or you're going for extreme as well. As always, if you have any tips or tricks for this level that you want to share, any questions for me, or you just have something in general that you want to say, leave it down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video and found it useful, then consider hitting that like button. It helps out the channel and it helps these videos get noticed by people who really need them. And while you're down there, you might as well hit the subscribe button and ring that bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. I also have my own Discord server, so if you want to become part of the community I'm building, hop on in. Link is down in the description. Until next time, have fun exploring all of Rundown 5 and the secrets hidden within. There's definitely quite a bit left to uncover, and I'll see you all in the next video.